guys, Howard here with Here Comes the Sun, another classic from George Harrison, of course, appearing on the absolutely fabulous Abbey Road album. So let's just get right down to it. This is what I call a deceptively simple song. I mean, we think of it as being a simple tune, and in a lot of ways it really is. It's just some basic chords and whatnot, but it has a lot of subtleties in it, and I would like to explain those as we make our way through it, and I'll put tab up on the screen as usual. There's basically an eighth note strumming feel to it, kind of a... just a real relaxed strumming eighth note feel, but that's not all that's going on, okay? There's some definite cross picking involved, certainly on the bridge and turnaround. But it's also got some very particular strings being picked to bring out that melody that he has. So let's get right to it. Here's the tab up on the screen. I'll play the first phrase nice and slow. So you can see exactly what I mean right out the gate. It's not like he's just going... he's playing particular notes. So he sweeps across the strings rather nicely, swings back to the B string, and then open E string, and then back onto the second fret from the capo. So the best way to approach that is 2 downstrokes, then upstroke, and another upstroke. So right there you can see that I swung back to the G string with a downstroke and then an upstroke on the B string. So we've definitely got some cross picking going on here. And then it was a downstroke on the D string, downstroke on the G string. So we've got that same movement again. We swing down to the E string, down toward your feet that is, upstroke, open it, upstroke, and then G and B string again. And that's your whole first phrase right there. So downstroke on the D string again, downstroke on the G string, and then we swing down to that first E string again, upstroke, middle finger comes off, upstroke again, and then once again, G string, B string. Down, up. There we have it. And we move to the next chord, which is basically a G, although you're not fingering a full G chord because he's playing this. Now this is an interesting transition, okay? When you listen to the recording, it almost sounds like his second finger ghost notes that bass note because of the way he's moving. He's keeping that feel in it. So you're really attacking this chord more with a up, down. And then you can see that the ring finger comes on to the 3rd fret on the B string. So we've got... so he's kind of swinging from the B, the G, and the D, so to speak, and back to that bass note, or even hitting a couple of strings. But you definitely want to separate the treble strings from the bass note, okay? So what he does, it's... so you're just going back and forth, up, down, then swing so that you bring in the first E string, so you get that melody. So we have... I know you can see it on the tab, but it's basically inside the chord. So again, when you make that transition, you just keep moving. And you'll hear that kind of note kind of flop onto the fretboard, but that's exactly what you're looking for. So once again, open, on, open, but bringing in the first E string, back on, and finally open. So that G chord ends like that. And then we move to an A7 chord, and it's basically the same idea, right? He's just got a melody moving within the chord. But for this, he's strumming away pretty earnestly with these eighth notes and just letting that melody happen by moving his fingers around. But what you do want to do is emphasize the B string, because that's where the melody is hanging out, even though you're strumming. So don't bring in the first E string just yet. You bring it in right at the end for that last upstroke, and be sure to remove your ring finger from the B string so that that melody really pops out. And you just keep strumming away. So what we have so far now is this. And then we make our way back to the D chord, and he basically plays what he played out the gate, but you don't have that little sweep at the very beginning. He just hits the D string as a quarter note, believe it or not. Now, if you want, you can bring in the G string as well. So without that sweep, you just have a single D note, an open D string, right? Again, he plays it as a quarter note, so what he actually plays is... But if you want to put that G string in there, you can do that as well. And then we move to the G chord again, but instead of playing... we play... Okay, so again, 3rd fret on the 6th string to make that G chord happen. And the melody starts on the 2nd fret on the 1st E string. You can see that on the tab, but it's 2nd fret, bass note, open, bass note, 3rd fret on the B string, bass note, open, B string. You're hitting more than just the single strings, but just pointing out which strings are moved. So again, it's basically bass note, treble strings, 2nd fret, bass note, open that up for an open E string, bass note, and then emphasize the B string on the 3rd fret. But again, you're hitting more than one string, of course. And then finally you open that one up. So the melody is... just keep stroking, right? You can hit that A7 with a downstroke if you want to, if you really want to emphasize it, but the recording sounds like he's doing it with an upstroke because he's just, again, earnestly strumming away. Okay, so a couple of quick notes on this intro. Okay, we'll play the whole thing again, but he's picking pretty lightly, not overly lightly, but you know, he's not sort of digging into the guitar. But you can hear as he makes his way to that first A7 chord, he really starts kicking it up a little bit, and it sounds pretty sweet, and then he goes right back to playing soft again. So here's the whole intro. Nice indeed. Okay, so now we move into the song where the vocal enters. And the song, like a lot of Beatles songs, or a bunch of Beatles songs, starts out with the chorus. So we find our way back to the D chord again, of course. That is the main chord in the song, you might say. And so he's playing the melody that he's written and that he's singing on the recording. So this is a little bit trickier. I mean, there's more melody being used, of course, so we want to capture all of that. So you can see it clearly on the tab, but I think what's really important is what's happening in the right hand, in the picking hand. So we have... So hopefully you can see all of that, but I'll still explain it anyway. 2 downstrokes, D string, G string, first E string with an upstroke, upstroke again with the middle finger coming off, and then you're going to do this little alternate stroking thing where you're kind of swinging from the G string back to the E string, G string back to the E string. last note, the upstroke, is the B string. So let me definitely slow that one way down. So we just attached the second part of it to the first part of it. So that's 2 downstrokes, upstroke on the E string, downstroke on the B string. Again, open up that middle finger. And I do that with 2 upstrokes, the last 2 notes. And then you've got this kind of gentle strumming as you make your way to the G chord again. So we have... So what happens there is we've got that same G pattern again, where you're just kind of hitting the 3rd fret on the 6th string. The A string is pretty much muted out. And I kind of approach it like this. I like to pick through that, the 6th string, then swing down, kind of pick through the D and the G. However you want to strum it, or you can just strum it earnestly like I was saying earlier. But in any event, that's the melody. Simple on, off, on. And then we hit an E7 chord, and he hits that on the upbeat, okay? So now we have... Right? And then we come back to the D chord again, and we play... So 2 downstrokes again, and then again I like the 2 upstrokes. Back to the B string with a downstroke. Or maybe an upstroke is nice there as well. 2 downs and 2 ups. There we go. So again, all of that is... very sweet. And then, of course, we have that classic turnaround that he plays. So let's go over that. I'm doing that by sliding on the 2nd fret to the 4th fret, 2nd from the capo, of course, with my ring finger. Slide up a whole step. Keep that finger down. Lay your 2nd finger down on the 3rd fret on the B string, and then an open E string. And again, cross picking is best for this down, down, up. Okay, so we have, keep your 2nd finger down, move the G string to the 2nd fret using your 1st finger. Same picking pattern, down, down, up, down, down, up. Finally open up the G string. So we have, and you can see that this finger came back onto the G string at the 2nd fret. And then we play. So that's a pull off, or at least that's the way I play it. It's a pull off 3rd fret to the 2nd fret on the B string, and then 4th fret to the 2nd fret on the G string. And probably downstroke and then down, up. So the pull off takes the place of what would be the upstroke. Down, up, down, up. I think that's probably the best way to play it. And then we're into what is truly the verse of the song. So this is going to be exactly what he started the whole song out with, without that sweep across the D chord. He's just going to play the D string and the G string with 2 downstrokes. But the rest of the pattern is exactly the same. And follow right through with everything we did out the gate. can see what he's doing is he's looping the two sections. You can see that I just went back to the chorus and played everything that I played before. There are a few subtleties in the recording, like the way he changes the phrasing every once in a while to fit the vocal, but I trust you can hear that, and if you like to sing and play, you'll definitely kind of fall into doing it that way anyway. Now, after he returns to the chorus, singing it out, as he does, you'll find your way back to the turnaround, of course. That'll be at the tail end of it. So he's got this little bit, and this little interlude, if you want to call it that, so that he can make his way back to another verse. So we play. Right? So that's across the D chord. It's patterns that he's used before. And just kind of strum those ghosty notes. Then the A7. Again, like what he played before, emphasizing that melody on the B string. And then the E string. So that functions as sort of an extended turnaround, if you will. And then we're back to another verse. And then we play this. And this sort of takes you into the verse. So he's got these cool little connecting links that he uses. Again, it's exactly what we played just a little bit ago. And he's just pounding out an A7 chord, nice and staccato. And then, of course, we find our way to the bridge, okay? A very cool part of the song indeed. And so there's a lot of cross picking here. You can see that up on the tab, open A string, then 4th fret, and then 2nd fret on the D string. And you can attack that with downstrokes, I think is fine. And then we form an F triad, a 3rd fret on the D string, 2nd fret on the G, and 1st on the B. And this is where you definitely want to employ cross picking, down, down, up, okay? Then take these two fingers, move it up. So now you're doing the same thing from the A string all the way down to the G string. So we're moving from an F to a C, and then just take your 2nd finger and move it to the 2nd fret on the A string. And we're using the A, D, and G strings again. And that's basically a G chord. I don't fall into the shape right away because I kind of separate those notes out because it sounds like that's what he did on the original recording. Like that. And then we get into a D chord. We're going to move from a D to an A7. This part is pretty loose. You know, this is those kinds of things where there's various subtleties and things in the recording. But basically, you're going to hear this quite a bit. So just kind of, again, earnestly strumming away with that middle finger coming off. And back on, and then A7. So we have... And that becomes a big loop, and they actually play that 6 times, if you can believe that. Played it 3 times to avoid too much repetition, okay? But on the tail end of the 6th go-around, we play this. it's that constant flow of strumming in the picking hand. What you want to do is you want to catch this with the upbeat, and it's sort of tricking your ear in a way because he's just staying on the same chord, but again, he's emphasizing the B string first. So I'm going to explain that because I think tab will just make it more confusing. We've got the A7 chord, and the finger dance is going to be on the B string, okay? So we want 2 upstrokes out the gate. So finger comes off, and then a downstroke back on. And then you can see it came off again while you're in that natural alternate stroking pattern. And that's pretty much the rhythmic approach that you're taking for this whole section. So now you can see this finger stays down and the finger dance is happening here. Same strokes, same approach, everything. Hopefully you can see that. Now what he does is he's going to swing further to bring in this E string so that he starts making a melody. So you're kind of on the E string, B string, E string, B string, kind of back and forth. While you're strumming though, of course. And then we go to the 3rd fret to make an A7 chord. Well, it already is an A7 chord, of course, but we've got that G octave in there now, and you just strum out earnestly on that one. So let me play that whole section again really slowly. I know this one has always kind of tripped up my students a little bit, but again, this is how it works. And so on and so forth. So those are all the parts of the song. But let's talk about the very ending. So at the end of the last chorus, he hits that turnaround again, of course. But then he plays It's All Right. Sort of a little piece of the big picture, right? And then he plays the turnaround again. So what we have is and then he brings the F, C, and G movement back into it for the ending. And he just ends it on a D note. So that whole ending to the song, starting with that last turnaround, is played like this. So there you have it. Here Comes the Sun from the incredible Abbey Road album, another stellar composition from George Harrison. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, all the best to everyone.